So what was the most mentally challenging?
I would say episode 3, the cubes, was super challenging. And part of it is like it was kind of early on and starting to miss my kids a lot. And we kind of got a little rug pull here. Like the night before, we had this awesome steak dinner, like the best meal we've had. We had a dance party around the money, like they played music and everybody was having fun. And then the next morning, like, hey, we're just going to have a game day. We're going to do a potato sack race. And people are like, oh my gosh, like this is going to be fun. And then they handcuff us to each other. They take us into a cube. They tell us that we're going to be here in 5 hours and that at least one of you will get eliminated out of your group of 3. And my group of 3 was me, 808, and 204. And 204, Chris, a great friend of mine, we're like, oh my gosh, how's this going to work? What are we going to do? And so we get into the cube and like at first, none of us wanted to play a game. Like, hey, let's just see how this goes. And maybe somebody will get something of value that will make them want to cuff. And just to kind of tell the viewers is there's a red phone in there and it said, ask for anything. And we could ask for anything that would help us make a decision on who would cuff themselves. And you could ask for anything, but you couldn't take it out of the room. So yes, you could ask for $1 million. They might bring it in, but you can't take it out. You can't take it with you. And so for me, I was kind of going, gosh, what could I ask for that would help me make a decision to handcuff myself? And I asked for a phone call with Elon Musk.
Why Elon Musk?
Well, in my mind, I kind of go, Elon, obviously our generation's Thomas Edison, Albert Einstein, just brilliant. But between Tesla, which is like what really made Tesla go is the energy side of it. And then Neuralink, brain, I go, my son's condition is creatine transport deficiency. Creatine is the energy that kind of supports ATP in the brain. If there's one person who can kind of spin some cycles to try to figure out how to get creatine in the brain, it's Elon. So I said, gosh, if I can get a phone call with him for a minute, if I can ask him to dinner, I'll fly anywhere in the world to take him to dinner and bend his ear for an hour. Like maybe, just maybe we can make some progress on this condition. And so I was just super naive. I was so hopeful. I'm like, oh yeah, Jimmy gives away Teslas all the time. Him and Elon are on like text basis, like they're friends. And then a couple hours later, like a producer looks at me like through the window, like, hey, Jeff, like you might want to ask for something different. I'm like, what do you mean? He goes like, it's Elon Musk. Like you're not going to get a hold of him. So I was like just dejected. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm going to go home. I'm not going to get a chance to like make an impact for my son. And the room was tiny and it was like so sterilely white, this bright lights. It was just, I did not want to be there any longer. And I felt like there was no end in sight.
So you almost just kind of wanted to self-eliminate.
I wouldn't say that. I kind of felt like I was going to get eliminated. I felt like I just had lost this hope because no one else was asking for anything of value that would force them to handcuff themselves. So I realized, oh, I'm playing a different game. I'm thinking of this differently. And my friend Chris asked for a tattoo artist. So he had a tattoo artist come in. He got a MrBeast tattoo on his bicep. This is my friend Chris. He's jacked. And he's like in his 50s and he has this huge bicep and now has this big MrBeast logo on it. It's sweet.
How would that help him win the game though?
So what helped him is it helped him pass the time. He could calculate the time, how much time we had left, because we only had 5 hours to do this. And we had no guarantee that we would know how much time was left. We didn't have clocks. So he's like, if I can get a tattoo artist in here, I know how long this stuff takes. He'll have a phone that he has to like take pictures of. We'll be able to see what time it is. So he was strategically thinking of why he had a tattoo artist come in. The other person asked for steak and lobster.
Did they get it?
They got it.
Did you not want any steak and lobster?
Like why didn't you ask for a timer?
I would
a
ask
clock?
for In-N-Out at least.
Yeah.
I don't know if they have In-N-Out in Toronto. But yeah, no, I was at this point where I'm like, I wanted something that would help. And I just didn't think like a pizza or steak and lobster would. But and then we finally realized that, hey, there's no chance that anybody's going to eliminate themselves on their own. We need to play a game, like a game of chance, like flip a coin, pick cards, whatever it may be. But one of the out of the group did not want to play a game and said, even if we did play a game, like I'm not going to eliminate myself. So I go, oh my gosh, like how are we going to do this? So I picked up the phone and I asked for a clinical psychologist to come into our room. And because I'm like, we're part of an alliance. Like, we're friends. Like, can we get past this impasse? So the clinical psychologist sat down with us. I mean, it was so bizarre. She's sitting in a chair. All of us are sitting Indian style on the floor. And after 25 minutes, like, she kind of looks at us and go, hey, I tried to help you guys. I don't think there's anything further I can do. I think you guys need to figure it out, because we couldn't get past the impasse of not all of us choosing to play a game. So long story short, my friend Chris, 204, and I looked at each other, because we were super close, and said, hey, one of us is going to have to go home. Let's just flip a coin. And we get the coin. I call tails. We flip it. I don't look at it. He looks at the ground at it and gives me a hug and says, best of luck. And then he went over to the wall. He cuffed himself, and I walked out.
Was that not frustrating to have someone in that room? Because I feel like, to me, I would have felt like we're all making sacrifices here, and yet you want all of the upside and none of the downside, and therefore pushing the burden on us.
At the time, 100%. That's how I felt. I mean, like, I literally walked out of the room, saw one of the production assistants, and I looked at her and I said, can I have a hug? Like, I was like, I just felt sick. But watching the episode, I realized it's good gameplay. She knew that Chris and I were super close. She also knew that we aren't stubborn enough to kind of go, oh, screw that. All of us, because if someone doesn't handcuff themselves, they all get eliminated. So I think she, in retrospect, I think it was good gameplay, not the way I would want to play, but
did that ever come back to bite her, though? Because I feel like if someone does something so bad, like the Habibi brothers,
that was awful.
When they were in the box, like how they got that girl who was like crying, and they like faked the game so they could each win, which, yes, it was awful, but it was also strategic. That stuff gets out, and then they got eliminated because of what they did.
How did that get out?
I'm pretty sure. So early in the games, when you get eliminated, you have like this like little tote in your bunks with all your kind of personal items, and you have to go in there and pack it up and carry it out. And I think in that process, she spoke to people in her bunk like, hey, here's what happened. And then it just gets around like the telephone game.
But then does that come back to bite them, though? If you do something like that in the boxes, did you go and you share that information? Like, hey, this person, they just withdrew and they didn't want to.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't, I don't think it helped her, but it was like, people always ask, because like this was the first psychologically like really challenging game. People are like, hey, what happened in your cube? And for me, I was just like, yeah, one person didn't want to play, and kind of left it at that. She eventually took a bribe on kind of episode 4. And so she got money from it. And, I think it worked out well for her. And for me, it's like I look back at every single thing and I have to thank it, because if I don't, I'm not grateful for the ultimate outcome.
Yeah. Now, that episode for me was quite memorable because on that phone, like you said, you could ask for anything you want. What are some of the requests that people were asking for? And could you actually get anything? Because I saw someone bring in a horse.
Yeah.
How do they have a horse?
Yeah.
How do they have a clinical psychologist that they could just call, be like, you got to get here right now?
Well, I mean, I think for you guys is like, if you sat here for hours and kind of like said, okay, what are the craziest things that people might do with their finances, or people might want to buy from an insurance perspective, you could have the craziest things listed. And this is what the Beast Team writers probably do, is they sit around, okay, go, here's what we're going to do. We're going to stick them in a queue for 5 hours and they can ask for anything. What are the craziest things that people might ask for that we can deliver? So there was a horse ready. There were puppies ready. There was a fortune teller, a psychic, a clinical psychologist. I mean, pizzas, people got their haircuts, people got massages. Like, it was like when I looked out the window and saw the horse, and again, after I just told you, like, I was in a really bad spot. I was like thinking of my kids, and I look out and I see a horse. I'm like going, what world am I in?
But you couldn't ask for a vape or Elon Musk.
You can ask for it. You can ask for anything, but you might not get it.
Was there anything that they said no to? Or was there, besides like the phone call with Elon Musk, did you hear any stories of like, oh, I asked for this, I didn't get that?
Well, I feel like, I mean, if you look at the episode, it's like Nolan, Mac, Tariq, Chandler answering the phone. I think there was like a little delay on some, like, so some people asked for stuff, but just they asked too late, so they didn't get it delivered. But a lot of people like ask for kind of pizza or sushi, because most people decided, hey, we're going to play a game and we're going to play at the end. In the meantime, let's have some fun. But then there's cubes like ours, where it was more of, hey, like, we got to figure out how we're going to get out of this thing.
It'd be interesting to see what all they had on standby. Like what
I-
was in that big
yeah.
room, you know?
That's why I
Like
would
a
love.
clown. I bet
I
you
was
they had a
about to
clown.
my
say.
God.
I was about to say.
See, look, if we just sat down for a couple hours, we could come up with
Yeah,
that
but I would
stuff.
never guess a horse. Never.
Me
They
neither.
probably had every animal.
Oh, and they had multiple dogs. Like many people asked for puppies. One Landry asked for. She said, "Hey, I'm going to eliminate, but I just want to have a princess party." And like they brought all the princess and prince gear. Like, how did you have that? So I would love to see the BTS on that room.
My guess is they had to have someone at like a Walmart and a Target nearby, and so they call in, yo, we need 5 Monopoly sets.
I think it's got to be that. There's no way they
There's no way
have it
they're
all
buying it.
already ready to go in a room.
and then just return it massively,
I mean,
or like an Amazon.
I'm gonna
warehouse.
have to ask Jimmy and see.
Because
like-
there's sizes too. Like, you know, do you have like a princess outfit in every size? Like, would you have it in gram size?
right,
As well?
or Jack's size, the plus size.
But it was so quick. Like that's the thing that is like I think a lot of it was there because they got this stuff so quickly